Hello. Hello everybody. Hello everybody. Sorry, I'm actually really I'm quite unwell. And I think my voice is making it really obvious. But I'm not so, my voice sounds like it hurts to speak or like I'm too unwell to speak, but I'm actually okay. Don't let the quality of my voice deter you. I am okay. Also, forgive me, you're gonna hear a lot of that. Hi everyone. I'm cutting in and out. It's probably because I'm speaking too quietly. Is there a way for me to increase the sensitivity of my mic? I imagine there is. How is that? Is this better at all? Because there's no way that I'm going to be able to speak loudly today. It's just not going to happen. Can you hear me? Hello? Is this better at all? Okay. Because there's no way that I'm... Oh, okay, good. Brilliant. I'm glad that it was a you problem because I don't think I have it in me to put more energy into speaking. It's just not going to happen today. But I have boosted my microphone a bit. I think that's what just happened. Is my volume improved to everyone versus how it has been, like the sensitivity of my mic? I probably shouldn't try to stream, but like I really want to, and I can't help my voice. That's just what's happening right now. But I'll try to mute when I cough. I'm so sorry. Okay, brilliant. By very improved, do you mean like it's too improved? Is it too much? Is it too much? Is it overbearing? What do you think? Okay. Oh, it's perfect. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm perfect. No, just kidding. Sorry, I sound so ugly. Okay, anyway, what we are going to do today. My god, my voice sounds really horrible. This is gonna be really embarrassing, to have put out into the world, but oh well. It's a brat summer. Anyway, what I wanted to speak about today, if I can handle it, is a couple of theories that I had developed a long time before I ever thought of the possibility of streaming lore content or creating lore videos. And this theory is very heavily based around Guess Who. Guess Who? I bet you'll never guess. Especially not by the thumbnail. it's very heavily revolving around Miquella, obviously. Um, and this theory has to do with how so if you pay attention to in the lore of the game, each age is marked by a mineral. For example, like the earliest age that we're aware of, like wherein the primordial crucible comes from, and like even before that, like the dragons, which the crucible probably comes before the dragons, but maybe not. I have a reason why I think these two things operate outside of one another, but anyway, if you look at the dragons, they're an age of stone. All the dragons, their skin is made of stone, the buildings are made of stone, everything's made of stone. No, the unicorn is just because I love unicorns. The unicorn has nothing to do with the lore. The unicorn is just me being campy and girly and embracing that, you know, that's an aspect of me and that I like it. And now I'm like forcing you to endure. I'm so sorry, that was probably horrible. So anyway, the Age of Dragons, one of the earliest ages, is an age of stone. And one of the next earliest ages, in my opinion, is the primordial crucible, which is marked by this red tinge to gold. And the red tinge could be copper. It could be, you know, that copper red tinge. And then after the crucible, you have the age of silver, the age of the stars. And after the age of the stars, you have the golden age of abundance. And then that age withers and falters, and what we end up with is this shattered, broken age, undefined. And we have a character, Miquella, who is attempting to fill this age with purpose, with meaning, and he attempts to fill this age with unalloyed gold. And if we know anything about unalloyed gold, it's the purity of gold, yeah? So if we follow Miquella from the beginning of his journey through learning about the world around him, we know that one of the first things he studies is Golden Order fundamentalism. And in fact, he and Radigan go back and forth crafting Golden Order fundamentalist incantations for one another. And at some point, Miquella determines that the Golden Order doesn't have any answers, and the Golden Order is not an age that is going to breed progress into the world. In fact, it is an age that is stagnating and that is, you know, ensuring the status quo. So then Miquella abandons the Golden Order and he pursues unalloyed gold. And now we know he's even abandoned unalloyed gold. And this incantation seems to be made just simply of radiance, of radiant light. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because we can follow Miquella's progress through this. He also uses at some point in his learned journey, he uses bewitching branches who also mark his age of unalloyed gold. But the remarkable thing about the bewitching branches is they also exhibit a hint, a trace of pink magic or mental magic, and I believe that there's a reason for this. I think that it's clear that Miquella comes from the age of the Eternals, when the Eternals were a prevalent race. See this marking on this pillar? Here, these plant markings, those squiggly lines that go up the column. Those squiggly lines are a design choice that marks like a cultural embellishment, which frequently those types of things mark an age because they are attached to like a fad within the architecture, within the that aspect of art expression, artistic expression. I'm so sorry. If you look here, that's a one-to-one. It's the same sort of design. In fact, these columns and these archways being really pristine and beautiful and carved out of marble, which I want you to take note of. Like, this is obviously marble. It's not wood, it's not stone, it's glossy, shiny, beautiful marble, and you can see by looking at it, like the marble, the yellow golden marble streaks through the white, through the off-white. If we go back to Noxtella Eternal City, you'll see that the design here is remarkably similar, one-to-one. Inside the support beam column, you have the same sort of embellishment. Very artistic, very intricate. And the walls themselves are made of some kind of marble. And you can see the marbling in the stone. You can see it very clearly. I have long theorized that I know exactly what this is, because if you look at this stone when the light isn't touching it, the stone looks relatively black, doesn't it? It looks very dark. It basically looks black. It's shiny, and you can still see the marbling. But when you look at this stone in direct light, it is clearly kind of silver. These plants here, they are catching the light, and they are silver, but when they don't catch the light in the dark, they tend to look nearly black. And I'll show you an example of it as we draw deeper into this place, but you see these plants, they look silvery black. If you look at that ant that's having a gander at us, you can see that there's pink magic in its eyes. If we were to do a very specific something, and let me see if I even have the capability of doing this thing that I want to do. I do. If we were to use a sleep pot on this person, they'll fall off their ant and it breaks the spell. And now the ant no longer has pink eyes. It's no longer under the spell of the Nox, and they are now fighting. She was compelling the ant to be cooperative with her, which is something that we see Miquella do. In combination with the architecture and this art of compelling someone to be affectionate towards you or to work in league with you, it's very markedly speaks to a culture of ability. We also know that when Marika ascends to godhood, well, we don't know for certain, but a lot of people theorize that she did so with the guidance of the fingers. And that guidance was obviously misleading because the fingers weren't actually speaking to the greater will this whole time. How do we know the fingers weren't actually speaking to the greater will this time? Well, because if we go speak to our friend Metir in the Cathedral of Manus Metir, he will teach you a very important something. He will teach you that from the start, the mother Metir was unable to receive any information from the greater will because the greater will abandoned this world long ago. And he says that the problem lie, quote unquote, with the mother, that she was warped and distorted from the start. Let's talk to him and see what he has to say.
Well, we don't often receive visitors. I am Ymir. Welcome to Manus Meta. It is a pleasure to have you. In lands so forsaken as these, chance encounters are precious indeed. Seeing that we have convened here on this day, allow me to mark the occasion with a modest offering. The map I gave you charts the site of a hallowed ruin. It is said that after sounding the hanging bell there, one's fate will be guided by the stars. I only wish to be of service, to help those who fight for their purpose. I'm not mistaken, am I? I can see it in your eyes. You are a fighter, are you not? Is something the matter? I've given you a map to the hallowed ruin. Oh, I suppose you expect a lesson of me, do you? I know the feeling. Those with purpose are nothing if not ravenous. For power. For truth. I, too, am a glintstone sorcerer. We study the stars and examine the life therein. Are you familiar with our findings? Long ago, we began as stardust, born of a great rupture far across the skies. We, too, are children of the greater will. Is that not divine? Is that not sublime? And yet, none can fathom its implications. Its utter brilliance.
Now, what's important to consider in this moment is
oh, yes. Do mind your feet around the church. You wouldn't want to hurt the little boy. Is something the matter to squeak?
okay. What's important to consider about Mr. Emir, aside from what he just said to us, is his manner of dress. The first thing that I would like to draw your eyes to is his headdress specifically. If we look very closely to his headdress, you will see that his manner of headdress is actually, this is a woman's headdress. This is not something in history you would ever catch a man wearing. In fact, this is the kind of thing you would catch a noblewoman wearing. And what's even more interesting about it is it matches the aesthetic and style, very specifically, of the Nox. With their headdresses, such as this one, it even matches with the colors. It even matches with the materials. The white cloth, the cone that's forming the cone in the back of the head, is the same thing as the cones that are covering his ears. The gold trim on it, when there's gold trim with fingerprint markings on his crown. But what's cooler still is that this sort of thing comes from real history. This manner of headdress. That's what drew my attention to this, is that, yes, the silk, all of it. What drew my attention to this is that the style harkens back to a specific age, to a specific culture, to a specific aesthetic, which marks like a certain culture being in power to influence an aesthetic like that. And the reason why this is really important is because there's another group of people. Also, take notice that the males, this is the monk's hood, and look how closely it matches with Miquella's Needle Knight's uniform. Look how it matches the colors, it matches in style. If you were to wear this as an outfit, you couldn't convince someone that it wasn't supposed to go together. But also, this is the style for men. Men, you can see their eyes. Women have their eyes blocked, but you can see their mouth. Men have their mouth blocked, but you can see their eyes. I think there's a reason for this, and I think there's a reason why all of these headdresses match Mr. Emir's. And I also think that there is a link between these headdresses and this one. Do you know whose headdress this is? This headdress, with the eyes apparent and the mouth blocked, comes from the perfumers of Lanebell. The reason why this is important, and the reason why I'm pointing this out, is because if we look at Lanedale, hold on, I'm sick, I'm gonna cough. Okay, if we look at Lanedale, you can see something that Tarnished Archaeologist pointed out a long time ago, was that the city used to be all of this. This major gateway right here. This major gateway leads to, right now, to nothing. But if we go there right now, and we look at these nobles who've been alive for time immemorial, and they don't know what, you know, oh, I can't keep going without making this rune on my head. Anyway, if we go have a look, I'm going round because I don't want to bother with the gargoyle, and I don't remember whether or not I killed it. If we run all the way over here, you will see that these nobles who've been alive and stumbling about on this path to this large gateway, you know, since ever. Here they are. I'm gonna kill this guy because he's a wanker. They are headed somewhere, and if you look at their manner of dress, it can remind you of Midris, but it can also harken back to the same manner of dress that I was just talking about. But, you know, these people are barons and baronesses and minor lords, all of that kind of thing. So their manner of dress, whilst still immaculate, would be far less opulent than, for example, a knight of Miquella, a needle knight of Miquella. You can see here, there's that guy there, there's the wizard, who is also going to die. But this is all marking an age, an aesthetic and an age of particular rule. And here's the door where they're all going to. Before I carry on, I want to point something else out really quickly. I'm gonna clear all these guys out so they won't fuck with me. If we look really closely at the leading nobleman in particular, who is casting glintstone sorcery, by the way, on his head is worn a circlet. Where have we seen this circlet before? Can you recall? We have seen this circlet on Godric's head. Godric himself, a nobleman who claims lineage, you know, to be part of the golden lineage, etc., etc. But we've seen it somewhere else as well. I did too. Wouldn't that be just, wouldn't that fucking figure if that's what I loot? Okay, good. It was just a roa fruit. I did too. I searched for it forever. If we read the description of this circlet, it says a valuable headband featuring fine gold work, travel attire worn by nobles in the capital. Abandoning their birthplace after the shattering, these undead wanderers are the pitiful product of unending life. But the other fascinating thing about that circlet is we don't only see it on Godric's head and on the heads of these eternally wandering noblemen. I want to see if any of you can recall where else you've seen it far more recently. I'm going to give you like 20 seconds. Do you recall seeing it anywhere else? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that none of you can recall. If you think back to the jar people, you know, the people that come flopping out of the jars. Have you... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I'm so sorry, that was not the point. Think back to the people that come flopping out of the jars that have melded harmoniously with gobs and gobs of flesh of other beings that are covered in pus and putrescence. They have adorning their thigh a remarkably familiar piece of jewellery that looks uncannily similar to this particular circlet on the heads of these nobles. I think the reason why these nobles wear this circlet is because the culture to which they had climbed, you know, the social ladder, of which they had climbed the social ladder, was the Eternals. The Eternals were Marika's people after she had slaughtered the Hornsons and wrested power from their age of power. And I believe that the Eternals are the Numen, and the Numen are the Shaman, and they make up, in addition to being Numen and Shaman, they're the same people through different periods of time. They also make up the people that used to be here, where this door leads. I promise you, nobody makes a giant gate that looks like this, bars it closed, and stuffs the bottom of the gate so that the door simply cannot be opened. Look how it's sealed. This couldn't be opened if you tried. Nobody does that in a city. You don't have a road and a gate leading to nowhere. This water here used to be a thriving part of the city. If you look really close to Langdale, you can see where the hierarchy dwelt. The noble people dwelt here, their rooftops gilded in gold, and the commoners and probably, you know, the help lived in these homes here, which if we go there now, you would see, I mean, if we go there now, you'll see that it's the capital of Ash, but if we were to actually go here at what we're looking at on the map, you would see piles and piles of dead people. The disrepair and ruin is far worse in this district of the city, in this little area of the city, than it is here in the noble people's area. In fact, you can walk through the streets and they're relatively empty. The only thing there is like ash and like noble people who are in despair and stuff like that. But if you walk through this area, everybody's well decayed and in disrepair, piles of corpses, la 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 la, and the roofs are, made of terracotta, much cheaper material. I think that the reason why I'm pointing all of this out is because this marks a very prevalent age of the Numen, the age of the Eternals. They were very, very, very prominent and successful during the Age of Abundance under Marika's rule. So successful that they started to break into factions as Marika's seed grew into this massive Erd tree that harkened back to who these people were before Marika became a god, that harkened back to the grandmother trees of their shaman villages. This monumental symbolism of their history, of their past, of their sacred trees, was undeniable by everyone in the world, because no matter where you look, from no matter where you are on the map, there's the Erd tree. It's part of the skyline, no matter where you are. It blocks out the sun. It frequently blocks out the moons. It's literally undeniable as long as you exist in this land, right? Well, not everybody thought that it was undeniable. In fact, some people thought that they knew better. And those people began to worship the stars. Let's see if I can actually get that. I don't think I will be able to. I got it! Okay, anyway. Those people began to worship the stars. And they were castigated in their sacred tree culture, in their culture of worshipping Marika. But it didn't stop them. In fact, they wanted to create their own lord, who was not a warlord like Godfrey. They wanted to create their own lord, and so using the putrescence of their ancestors, refining it, and using their own flesh, which melts harmoniously with the flesh of others, they were able to engineer new life forms. And I believe that that's why the putrescence looks so remarkably similar to these tear husks, whatever they're called. What are they called? Silver tear husks or whatever. What are they called? Hold on, I'm gonna go loot one and I'll tell you. Silver tear husks, yeah, that's what they're called. The reason why those look so much like putrescence is because that's exactly what they are. They are putrescence. But they are refined. They are engineered putrescence. And with refined engineered putrescence, you can create new life forms that are not touched by the light of gold, that do not have runes in them, but it's a new life form that literally comes from the innate arcane magic of these Numen people. And what I was telling you before about how when the light's not hitting it, this material looks relatively black, charcoal, grey, black, and the plants here, they also look black. But if you cast but a little light on them, you will see that no, they are not black. They are silver. And they're not just silver, they are metal silver. Even the plants down here are imbued with silver. Gold is not the only form of life in the world, and this railway that was just looking charcoal dark now looks almost white. What other thing in this world do we know when the light isn't shining on it looks black, and when the light is shining on it glows bright, nearly as bright as the sun? The moon. The moon is just like that. These people worshipped the dark moon. And when their dark moon was cast out of the sky, and the god of their dark moon was hidden behind Ronnie's eye, sealed away behind a golden seal of Marika's grace, their moon came crashing down to the lands between. And they used shards of that moon to craft something quite remarkable. They used shards of that moon to craft memory stones. A black, lightly beguiling stone, prized by the sorcerers who produce them, increases memory slots, said to be a fragment of the black moon that once hung above the Eternal City. They built their very cities from the moon. That's why these cities look like this. Their moon that came crashing down. These cities strengthen their minds. These cities are magical. Silver magic floats through the air and allows them to make mock stars in the sky of their underground world. They were cast down, but it wasn't by the greater will. Some other force cast them down, and we know it wasn't the greater will, because Ymir tells us that the greater will left long, long ago, long before Marika became a god. That her entire reign is basically a lie. But the fault doesn't lie with the people of this age. The fault lies with the mother itself. And I don't think he's talking about Marika. I think he's talking about Metyr, the finger mother. She swindled these people. She swindled Marika, and she swindled these people, and she probably swindled her own people, the fingers. So this black stone, this harkens back to A Song of Ice and Fire. We know that George loves talking about black stone and it being a mystical thing. And in A Song of Ice and Fire, in the deep histories of The Song of Ice and Fire, you have the great empire of the Dawn, and one of the gemstone emperors, the last gemstone emperor before the fall of the Empire of the Dawn, is called the Bloodstone Prince, or the Bloodstone Emperor. He was called the Bloodstone Emperor because everybody thought he was evil, and there was this black stone that fell from the sky, and he started worshipping it. His sister, with her amethyst eyes, inherited the throne of the Dawn of the Empire, and he killed her and took her throne from her and turned his entire culture to worshipping this black stone that had fallen from the sky. And from then on, he was known as a kinslayer and the Bloodstone Emperor. We know that George likes to talk about Blackstone being the fundamental building pieces for multiple magical civilizations in A Song of Ice and Fire. The city of Ashai, which is thought to have been like an outpost of the great empire of the Dawn, is also built by this greasy black stone that seems to drink up the light. And all we know about Ashai now is that Ashai is a city of sorcerers. The only people who would dare to go there are shadowbinders and blood mages and people like Melisandre. But normal livestock can't even live there. They have to have all of their food imported, and most of the people that live there sustain themselves on magic, dark magic, fearsome rites, unspeakable evil. Just like Melisandre, by the way, in A Game of Thrones. So if we bear all of this in mind, and we know all of this about A Song of Ice and Fire, and we're literally encountering it here in Elden Ring, we cannot deny the parallels. We cannot deny that this mystical, magical city has magical properties to it, and that the people that dwelt here were responsible for crafting new life outside of the boundaries and confines of the order in which they operated, of the order that was imposed upon them. They were cast down along with their dark moon below the ground by the Golden Order. And here, instead of faltering, they flourished. The reason why this is important, the reason why I'm pointing all of this out, is because if we look here underneath deep root depths, I'm so sorry. Deep root depths lies directly below Lanedale. And the fascinating thing about this area is not only does it lie directly below Lanedale, but this is Nox architecture. These are the same exact building pieces. There's more light here, so they look like they're a different color, but they aren't. They're the same color. They are the same color. These are Nox architecture. Okay? This city is in ruin in a way that no other city in this world is in ruin. I believe that the reason why is because if you look at the map, directly above this nameless eternal city is Lanedale. What do we know about Lanedale that we already discussed previously? Lanedale is an eternal city. America the Eternal. Lanedale, the Eternal City. So having put all of this together, we know that they're from the same culture. We've seen their headdresses. They are the same. We've seen that the men cover their mouths, but show their eyes. They are the same. We've seen that the women hide their eyes, but show their mouths. They are the same. We know that Meter is telling us some fucked up shit, and he's obviously from the eternal time period. So if we match all of these things up together with Miquella's Needle Knights with Miquella's Halig Tree, it becomes clear that, and that's not the only thing, you also match it up to Ordina Liturgical Town. Ordina Liturgical Town is an eternal city. We know this because the architecture is exactly the same. It's exactly the same, but it's white. Could this be Renala's full moon? Maybe. Here are some terracotta roofs. I don't think it's Renala's moon, but why does it glow this green color? There's no torch here giving off this light. This light is coming from the stone itself. This green color. It's coming from the stone itself. There's no torch here. I believe that the full moon once dwelt in the north, which is where Renala encountered it. And I believe that this building may very well be built out of shards of the full moon. Or, you know, maybe some other kind of moon or whatever. But I think that this is clearly a moon. And this is obviously clearly eternal architecture, Newman Knox architecture. And this brings me to this symbol that some people call a tree, this symbol that some people call sea life, this symbol that nobody really seems to know what it is. But we've seen it in multiple places. We've seen it here. We've seen it in Celia, Town of Sorcery, which we know is also an offshoot of the Nox from below, and whose architecture is also eternal architecture. But the only places we see it are in Nox adjacent locations. If you look at it upside down, it looks like a tree. If you look at it this way, it does kind of look like sea life, right? But I propose something entirely different. And I'll get to that in just a second, but first I want to show you that indeed in Celia there is also an example of this strange seat that has a relief of this strange symbol. And James, I did see your question, and I will address it in a moment, along with everybody else who's leaving comments and stuff. I'll address them in a moment, but I just want to get to these parts, because if I don't get this stuff out, like, I'll space it, and then I won't say the things that I meant to say, and la 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 la. So anyway, if you look, if you look here at this Nox throne, you'll see much better this thing that, I mean, that really looks like a tree, doesn't it? Is on the back of the seat. Along the sides of the seat are those reliefs that you saw in the columns and the pillars of the eternal cities. This is obviously an eternal artifact. Now, I'm gonna it's gonna sound like I'm going off on a tangent on something not related at all, but think about the Elden Beast. Have you guys all fought the Elden Beast before? So you know what he looks like, you recall. Is that something you remember? The Elden Beast is inspired by Miyazaki by multiple different creatures and multiple different things. One of those things is hallucigenia, which is a prehistoric life form from a very, very long time ago. That looks like the fucking Elden Beast. That looks just like him. Doesn't it? That looks like the Elden Beast. Look at his head. That's the Elden Beast. But that's not the only thing that's the Elden Beast. The Laniakea supercluster also looks like the Elden Beast. The Laniakea supercluster is a supermassive collection of stars whose light is predominantly yellow, which is why it's depicted here in golden light. All of these stars are connected on an anomalous gravitational wave. So all of these stars are actually being pulled closer and closer together, which is what gives this supercluster this really unique look to it. But what's more is this anomalous gravitational wave is not unique. There are other anomalous gravitational waves in deep space that behave very similarly. And the same anomalous gravitational wave that created the Laniakea supercluster is also responsible for making an adjacent cluster called the Perseus-Pisces supercluster, right here. Does that look familiar to you? What looks like a fishtail at the bottom, what looks like a centipede, what looks like it could be sea life, it could be a tree. This is, in my opinion, the Perseus-Pisces supercluster. Why on earth would there be a depiction of the Perseus-Pisces supercluster randomly in Elden Ring? I believe that the reason why there is a depiction of the Perseus-Pisces supercluster on the back of this chair in this Eternal City is because the Nox weren't only trying to replicate a lord, they were also trying to create their own god, which is why they were also trying to recreate Marika's ascent in the Divine Tower, which is why we have depictions of hundreds of thousands of dead people all turned to stone. All turned to stone and then made into statues. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but all those people that have been turned to stone, they aren't just petrified people. They are on pedestals. And I'm gonna show you. these petrified people are on platforms. They are real petrified people from a moment in time, from a failed experiment, who have been forever idolized on platforms turned to statues by a culture of people who are desperately trying to replicate America's ascent to godhood so that they can usurp her, so that they can bring about their age of stars. They're trying to create a new version of America to replace America, who has failed them and failed this world. Okay, so now I've pointed you in this direction. The reason why I think that there's a significance between the Laniakea supercluster and the Perseus Pisces supercluster, and how this relates to the Nox, is with the Nox trying to create their own god, they're probably trying to create their own Elden Ring. They are also trying to create their own Lord. They are also hoping to be able to combat the likes of the Elden Beast. And so they are trying to summon stars. Because I'm a nerd. So they are trying to summon stars that can respond to the power of this golden star. This Elden star. This Elden Beast. And the Elden Beast, I believe that anomalous gravitational wave that keeps the Laniakea supercluster and the Perseus Pisces supercluster orbiting each other, basically. In real life, we call that anomalous gravitational force, we call it the Great Attractor. And the reason why it's significant is because the Perseus Pisces supercluster and the Laniakea supercluster, while they are clustered in opposite aspects, they are connected by this gravitational wave. And this gravitational wave is called the Great Attractor in our world. But I believe in the lands between, they call this incredible gravitational anomalous wave the primordial current, or the primeval current, I'm sorry. And the primeval current is this undeniable, powerful force of gravity that commands the stars, that controls our fates. And if you peek into such a power, you would surely lose your mind. And I think that's why in the lands between, meddling with the primeval current is taboo. But that's exactly what the Nox were trying to do. They were trying to bring about Perseus Pisces to be their Godzilla versus the Elden Beasts, the people of the Golds, King Kong or whatever. And they were trying to have a giant war of the Titans. But they failed. They failed. And the Elden Beast maintained its power in this land, as did America. But it didn't stop the Nox from trying. And I would really like to suggest, for those of you who might be interested, go watch my friend's video. Her name is, why can't I remember her screen name? It's something about lore. Lore me to death, thank you. I'm so tired. Her YouTube channel is Lore Me to Death. She has one video that she posted like 4 days ago. I highly recommend it. It connects to a lot of the things that I'm talking about here, and it kind of shows you the progress from my perspective, and apparently hers as well, that led to the Carians, and how and why the Newmen are related to the Carians, but also different. So yeah, the reason why all of this is relevant is because I believe that this age, when all of this was going on, this is when Miquella was born and what he grew up in. So this is the culture that he was used to. He learned from the Nox. He learned the pink magic of the fingers that could compel affection. And he learned it well. He learned how to use it, and he learned how to craft it. He learned how to create these bewitching branches, and then he learned how to do it without creating bewitching branches. He learned how to do it simply, innately, by his own power. And then he abandoned the Golden Order, and he sought power in the purity of unalloyed gold. And I believe I think I'm wrong now. But for a long time I believed that Miquella would find out that part of the problem that each age of the world ran into before him was this imposing of a hierarchy, this idea that purity of any kind could result in perfection. But I believe that that's the opposite of the truth. What makes things strong, just like genes, is mixing them. This is why, forgive me for those of you who are going to be insulted by this. If you are going to be insulted by this, I would respectfully request that you reflect deeply on your personal values and where you stand, and consider whether or not you might be racist. But that's why mixed babies are always more beautiful than like pure quote unquote babies, because mixed babies have the perfect collection of genes. Those genes make them stronger. They have fewer allergies. They have more resistances. They have a stronger genome. They are less likely to have illnesses that are genetic based. They have beautiful hair, beautiful skin, beautiful eyes, all of this stuff. Genes like to be diverse. Life craves diversity. If you try to have pure unalloyed gold, just like everything else in life, it is going to fail the same way that silver failed, the same way that copper failed, the same way that stone failed. I like how I lost literally my whole entire audience after saying that. That's okay. I would rather not have white supremacist audience people. There you go, black man. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Mixed people are truly beautiful people, and the reason why is because the diversity of their genes. It's just the reality. It's just what life craves. And I'm so sorry for losing all the white supremacists that I just lost, but I'm actually not. So yeah, so I believe that Miquella would have learned that he would have understood that diversity and an alloy is what makes everything in life stronger. And so I believed that Miquella would come to the realization that Electrum would be the way forward. Electrum is a natural alloy of silver and gold, and very frequently Electrum also has trace amounts of like copper and tin and other minerals, aluminium, etc., that are in there. So the beautiful thing about Electrum is that Electrum is a really interesting and diverse balance between silver and gold. And the other really remarkable thing about Electrum is Electrum also conducts electricity differently than both silver and gold, which is another thing that's important for life. And the other thing about Electrum is it's frequently called green gold because it has a hue to it that is lighter than regular gold because of the silver that's been added to it. But it also has a lot of gold in it, and that can tend to make like the silver gold mixing together can just make it like have kind of a greenish hue. And one thing that I noticed about Miquella's Haligtree and Miquella's armor, when you look at the Haligtree Knight set, is that it matches that description beautifully. I think Miquella's Haligtree Knight set is not gold, it's not unalloyed gold, it's not silver, it has a greenish tinge to it, and it is it's unalloyed gold. I'm sorry, not unalloyed gold, it is Electrum. I believe that Miquella Knights were sporting Electrum, and that's not the only bit of Electrum that I think I see in this area influenced by Miquella. I think that the very sap seeping from Miquella's Haligtree, not Melania's Haligtree, very important, but Miquella's Haligtree, actually has a green tinge to it. It's golden with a bit of a green tinge to it, which once again hints toward Electrum. Do you see the green gold? Do you see it? Do you see the green gold? And the other thing about this sap is it also is run through with streaks of red, and I think that might be scarlet rot, which is obviously not good. But this is very clearly green gold. And green gold is Electrum. And there's some more that supports this theory. If you take a high-powered laser to pure gold and you obliterate it on the molecular level and you create a colloid with the nanoparticles of the obliterated gold, you get a purple plume of golden colloid. Sometimes that plume can look dark purple, sometimes it can look red, etc., etc. If you do the same process, if you do the same process with Electrum.
This is a piece of 24 karat.
Here, we're going to watch this video really quick.
Isopropyl alcohol. If we submerge the gold and etch it with a fiber laser, the solution starts to turn a purple color instead of yellow as you'd expect. These are actually gold nanoparticles being created. The color is caused by something called plasmon resonance. Because the nanoparticles are so small, electrons on the surface of the particles begin to oscillate and resonate with certain wavelengths of light, causing the specific colors that you see. Gold nanoparticles, for example, can range anywhere from purple to red, depending on just how large those particles are. These particles are between 50 and 100 nanometers in size. This is...
So the reason why I'm pointing this out is because, like I said, if you do a colloid of gold, pure gold, unalloyed gold, you will get a purple plume. And I thought to myself, unalloyed gold, purple plume of colloidal gold. What if you did that with Electrum? Well, it turns out that you get a lavender plume. A lavender plume, hey? Well, oh, I just said I was going to watch a video and then you guys didn't get to see it. You listened to it, but you didn't get to see it. So I'll play it one more time just so you can see it.
Is a piece of 24 karat gold. And this is a vial of isopropyl alcohol. If we submerge the gold and etch it with a fiber laser, the solution starts to turn a purple color instead of yellow as you'd expect. These are actually gold nanoparticles being created. The color is caused by something called plasmon resonance. Because the nanoparticles are so small, electrons on the surface of the particles begin to oscillate and resonate with certain wavelengths of light, causing the specific colors that you see. Gold nanoparticles, for example, can range anywhere...
Yeah, I'm glad that you actually got to see it this time. Sorry, I'm so sick. I'm doing really stupid shit. But the point of me pointing this out is that with Colloidal Electrum, the plume that you get is different. The plume that you get is lavender. And then I thought, how does this relate to Miquella? How does this relate to Miquella in the way that I thought, matters and makes sense and blah blah blah? And then I realized two things. I realized that when we first see Centrina's sword in the main game, we get a silver sword of Centrina, and so Centrina is silver and Miquella is unalloyed gold. If you put those two things together, you get Electrum, right? If you do a colloid of Electrum, you get lavender. What happens if we use this silver Trina sword is a plume of lavender. What happens in the DLC when Miquella abandons Centrina and now there's no silver, there's only gold. You get a dark plume of purple. And I feel like that 100% supports my theory of colloidal electrum. I think that if Miquella would have pursued colloidal electrum, that would have been his fate with Centrina. And I know that I'm not incorrect, because there's a bit of cut content. And this blew my mind, by the way. There's a bit of cut content from the game concerning Miquella's lily. And let me see if I can, I thought that I saved it, but we'll have to do another Google search. Miquella lily electrum cut content. Here it is. This bit of lore is incredible. It says Miquella's lily, an electrum water lily modified through magic by Miquella herself. We were supposed to get Miquella's age of Colloidal Electrum, Miquella's age of Electrum, Miquella's age of having learned from all the mistakes of his forebears and finding balance in putting things back together, not through madness, not through melting everything back down, not through the crucible, not through blending life together violently, but through taking the wisdom of the ages and applying them together. I believe that Miquella comes from an age where so much was happening. There was so much for him to learn from the multiple factions of the Eternals, from the shaman. Thank you very much, Amy. From the shaman to the Newman, to the Nox, to the Eternals, and finally to Miquella and Centrina themselves. And Miquella used all that he learned to gain the power of the stars, not through direct means, but through gaining power over Radon. He claimed his own fate, and in doing so, abandoned it in order to pursue something that was greater than himself. And he knew that it was greater than himself. And the selfless act that I was talking about yesterday is the abandonment of his fate, is looking beyond his love, looking past doubt, vacillation, and fear. And leaving Centrina inside the fissure, not to rot and wallow, but to grow strong on the putrescence of their forebears, on the putrescence of the Newman that came before. And we know this because the shaman, Miquella, Marika, Centrina, they are tree people. Centrina has a root system, just like the sacred grandmother trees, just like the tree. Through those root systems, they take the nutrients of the soil, and the nutrients of the soil in this case being the putrescence of their ancestors. And after Miquella left sweet Trina here to grow strong in the putrescence of their ancestors, a remarkable thing occurred. She was no longer poison. She was no longer toxic. St. Trina's life withered and fell, as fleeting as the seasons. At her last, she left a single water lily. Despite the velvety purple hue, the flower is in no way poisonous. It merely blooms in quietude. So, please don't think that what Miquella did to St. Trina was a horrible thing. He didn't abandon her like, you know, a fucking prick. He didn't leave her to rot. He left her here because she didn't want to be imprisoned as a god. And Miquella knew that we were coming to kill him. It was all his design. He didn't want St. Trina to suffer our fate. So he abandoned his fate as St. Trina, his fate as Miquella the Electrum. He abandoned his other self and his fate with her in a future of Electrum in order to create his circlet, which is the Elden Ring of his Age of Compassion, knowing that we were going to come kill him and Radon and take it from him, and that we would be allowed to take all of the kindness of gold without order that Marika had secreted away and add it back to the Golden Order and create a truly perfect future, something that he could not do himself and that would require us. So for those of you that missed yesterday's stream, now you have not only yesterday's stream but also today's, and for those of you that did see yesterday's stream, now you have a little bit more back history and see kind of where I'm coming from and why I think it fits so well together. And speaking of yesterday's stream, I had some questions from some people that were really, really awesome, and they were challenging my my ideas, but as I was trying so hard to explain everything because I wanted to get everything out, but I didn't have a chance to address those questions. So what I would like to say for people that want to challenge my ideas is, if you have a question or like a statement that like reveals a chink in the armor of my theory, please tell me after I'm done explaining everything. I will always leave time at the end of the streams for us to discuss what I talked about, so that you can show me the weak points in my theories, or I can answer questions for you, or you can give me insights that I might have glossed over, or, you know, just I might not know about, so that we can discuss these things, so that I'm not leaving you hanging in my chat and like just not responding to you. Because if I stop what I'm doing while because I don't have a script in front of me, I'm free balling. And so if I digress, I'm autistic, and it will be like this whole rabbit hole of digression, and I'll never get to say the things that I actually want to say. So like I said, for future reference and for now, if you guys have really awesome questions or challenges to my ideas, or you have additional information or anything like that, please try to remember it so that you can ask me when I'm done, unloading on you, so that we can talk about it. Because I don't mean to not respond to you or not give you a good answer. Because yesterday the questions were if the shamans are tree people. Hold on, I really have to take a drink. If the shamans are tree people, then why does Melania feel so fungi-esque? And so when I was explaining yesterday how the demigods are literal aspects of Marika, literally she ripped pieces of herself off, and when she did that, she also ripped pieces of the Elden Ring off, because she and the Elden Ring are now one and the same. She is the vessel for the Elden Ring, so she is the Elden Ring. So when she rips off a piece of herself, divests a piece of herself, so too is she divesting a piece of the Elden Ring, which is why her demigod children all have Elden Ring, greater rune shards. Some of her children don't have greater rune shards, for example, Melina and Mesmer, and I said I think the reason why is because they aren't directly her children, they are the children of Radigan and and the Glowmine Queen. And then people were asking, well, what about, Rykard, Radon, and Ronnie? Well, I think at this point, Marika and Radigan had merged, and when Marika, through Radigan, is creating more children, it's the same thing. It's ripping off pieces of themselves, and cloning those pieces of themselves to create these children. And then someone was like, well, how come none of Ronnie's family have afflictions? I believe they do. I think Radon was born without feet. I think Radon couldn't walk. I think Ronnie was born without feet, and Ronnie couldn't walk. And I think Rykard was born without feet, and Rykard couldn't walk. And we know this because in one depiction of Rykard, he's sitting in a wheelchair. And with Radon, we know he was so attached to his little pony that he learned gravity magic so that he could ride his pony forever, even as he grew into a giant. Because he loved his pony so much, because he was so attached to his pony, because he had to ride his pony all the time, because he didn't have fucking feet. And then if you go to, sorry, that was a bit intense, wasn't it? But if you go up to Ronnie's Divine Tower, and you look at Ronnie's corpse, I've heard people say, oh, well, the reason why her corpse doesn't have feet is because they were burned away. Okay, well, if that's the case, if the fire was so hot it burned her fucking feet away, then why didn't it burn her earlobes away? Why didn't it burn her fingers away? Her fingers are much smaller than her feet, but she has her fingers, and sure, some of her fingers are falling off, but most of her fingers are intact. Her earlobes are intact, her nose is intact, her lips are intact, her arms are intact. She's missing her feet. And Whiskey Jack, thank you for saying that, because that's literally my theory. I literally actually said that the vow, the promise, okay, so here's the promise that Miquella made, the vow that they made between each other. When Miquella asked Radon to be his consort, he said, but I'm unfit as a consort. I have to ride this pony and this, that, and the other. I would never make a lord as fit as Godfrey. So Miquella says, well, okay, and Radon's like, if you can think of a way to get me feet so that I can walk and be a warrior like you deserve, I'll do it for you. And so Miquella's like, okay, here's the plan. I know how to get you feet, but in order to do it, you must die. Radon says, okay, but I'm not going to let you just kill me. That would be dishonorable. The only way I'm going down is if someone can best me in combat. I deserve a warrior's death. And Miquella says, I know just the person. My sister. Well, interestingly enough, this puts an idea into his sister's head. She's a warrior. She fought her whole life against the rot that was welling inside of her. The rot that her mother placed there, because her mother sealed the rot god inside of Malenia. It says in the description of Marika's sword seal, it says, solemn duty weighs upon the one beholden, not unlike a gnawing curse, from which there is no deliverance. This is such a huge piece of lore, and the reason why is because we see Mesmer take one of these out of his fucking head and pop it, and then out comes the Abyssal Serpent. Marika stashed the Abyssal Serpent inside of Mesmer and sealed it there with one of her saw seals. She did this to all of her demigod children. She shoved the rot god, who was defeated by a blue dancer, sealed it away inside of Malenia. And because Malenia's flesh melds harmoniously with the flesh of others, Malenia would consume and eventually merge with the god of rot. And so she herself would rot, but also, upon her death, become the god of rot. And so Malenia, like Marika, starts shedding these bits of herself. This is one of the questions I got yesterday. Why does she reproduce differently? She doesn't. That's exactly the way Marika reproduces. She starts shedding aspects of herself. Her will to live, her will to fight, her this, her that. And when she sheds that, now she just wants an honorable death. She's tired of suffering. She's tired of fighting. Miquella can't cure her. She failed Miquella, her one thing that she could do for him, to deliver Radon to him. She failed. Can you imagine the pit of despair that she must be in, so that when we see her, there's nothing left of her but rot and waiting for Miquella's return, when he might be able to cure her, or he might be able to offer her an honorable death. And that's where we come in. We do everything Miquella needed us to do. We clear the other demigods out with their great runes, their shards of the Elden Ring, of the Old Order. We kill the Elden Beast. We become Elden Lord. We clear Moog so that Miquella and Radon can use his body. Radon gets his honorable death because of us. Malenia is given mercy and an honorable warrior's death because of us. Ever shall our deeds live on in song. Miquella adores us. We answered his call. We fulfilled every need of his. And now he needs us to kill him, so that we can take his circlet that he could only craft upon ascension to godhood, but that is incomplete without order. Order that he can't facilitate. He can't do that. He doesn't see it in himself. He is a being of compassion. He is the kindness that Marika secreted away, that she divested of herself. And he sacrificed himself for the betterment of our lordship and to save his world, because he knew he couldn't do it himself. And that is Miquella's selfless act. That is the true ending. He's not a predator. He's not evil. He needed us to do everything that we've done, and we played into his hand beautifully. And he relies on our success to fix the world, which is all he ever wanted. To fix what his mother broke. So forgive me for being sick and having like such a shit voice, and forgive me for like coughing and like loud bursts in the microphone, and forgive me for kind of repeating some of the things that I said yesterday, but I know not everybody in the chat was here yesterday, and I know a lot of what I said that led up to this just makes everything more cohesive, and just allows for a bit of a broader perspective into how I formulated these ideas and how they're all interconnected, and how these theories that I had formulated before the DLC dropped and before I knew that there was cut content of Miquella's Lily still apply. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm excited by it and I'm grateful for it. So anyway, I am really sick. I am medicated, and I'm not certain how much longer I could actually be able to speak. So I'm gonna kind of slow down the speaking, and I'm gonna do some gameplay now. And I'll be here to answer questions and to just chit chat with you. If anybody wants to come into the voice chat with me and share in conversation, all you need to do is friend me on Discord, and we can have a Discord chat. And we can have a conversation, and I'd gladly have multiple listeners in the chat, so we can have like a group conversation if you like. If that's something you guys are interested in. If you are, let me know. If you just want to see me do some gameplay, let me know. Just let me know what you're interested in, but I want my voice to chill just a little bit henceforth. What do you guys think? Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and if using your voice is easier than typing, and you want to get your ideas and thoughts out, I'd happily be for that. Meh, there's no reason to be nervous. Yeah, I'm fried as well. in multiple different ways. Okay, alright, everybody seems content to keep things as they are. We'll just know that this is an idea that I'm going to revisit in the future. So if anybody at any point has an interest in having a chat, I'm keen for that. I also want to do like a bit of like a I don't know, like a self plug. I'll be doing some interviews of other content creators. I have done an interview of Kite Tales. She was my first because she's a good friend of mine and I really wanted her to be first. Hi Metal Foxhound. Welcome to the stream. So I've done one of Kite Tales. My next interview is going to be on the 25th. And I'm going to be interviewing Jack as a Mimic, if you guys know who he is. We're going to be having a long conversation about some of his, well, all of his body of work, really. And I'm going to be asking questions that I want to ask him, and engaging in conversation with him that I want to engage with. But at the end of every interview, I will be inviting listeners to also ask Jack questions. And they can be hard-hitting questions. They can be whatever kind of questions you want them to be. I simply ask that you keep them respectful because I do have mods in my chat and they will ban you if you're a dick. But as long as you are respectful to Jack, you can ask him questions of any kind, no matter how challenging or how in agreement, etc. But yeah, Jack is going to be here, and after Jack, we're going to do Scum Mage Infa and Lore Me to Death, my friend that I was plugging earlier. She is also going to be interviewed, and a Human Justicar is going to be interviewed, and Black Current is going to be interviewed, and my good friend Revu Person is going to be interviewed. So we're going to have lots and lots and lots of conversation with other creators in this space, and I really hope that you guys can tune in and join us. So yeah, so if there's no further questions and cha-la-la, then I think I'm gonna call the stream here because my voice is like giving up and stuff, and I don't think I have it in me to keep talking for very long. But thank you very much, Enoch. Thank you all my lovely friends who keep coming to support me even though I'm streaming like every day. And thank you to the new people who have been popping in yesterday and today. And if there's any content that you guys want to hear from me, just let me know. Thank you, Black Man, I really appreciate that. Absolutely, Brandon. Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I will surely be back tomorrow, whether rain or shine, sick or well, I will be back. So, I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody. And thank you, and that's all, folks. Bye.